In this video I'm going to show you how we use the HTTP connector component to make a SOAP call. I'm going to assume that you've watched the preceding video on get and post because that sets the scene quite nicely. So to start off with, I'm actually going to, although I could make call the URLs directly within here, I'm actually going to demonstrate how we can pass data in on a port. So this very first component here is actually just a universal data reader. And that is going to read our SOAP request from this XML file and pass it down the port. Let's go and take a look at that XML file quickly. We'll find that in here. This is actually, let's look at the source. So this is the SOAP 1.2 call, nice and simple, and we're basically populating that zip element with the zip code that we want to search for. Let's close that down. So we can see now how that's going to be passed in on the port to this HTTP connector. Let's see how we actually set up the HTTP connector to receive the data. Well, we use the input field, and here it will list any string type fields for the metadata assigned to that input port. Just as an aside, if you're using an input field, you have to pass data out on the output port as well. I'm not quite sure why that is, but it is what it is. If you're using these, then strictly speaking, you shouldn't be using the output file URL. So I'll remove this. Okay. Other things of interest, there's the web service URL. If you'd watched the previous video, you'll see how we can we can see what the actual web service URL is. The type is a post, so we're going to post that XML, and here we do need to specify the content type in as a header property. So content type and then the value application SOAP plus XML. If I actually open up the dialog, you'll see how that's set. They're just name and value pairs, and you can add any content types into this list that you need. That's it really. So let's run it, and we'll see what gets passed out the other end. Okay, that's finished running, and it's passed out into the XPath reader now. And let's open this up. And this is another important thing, which is perhaps best described in the Quick Start guide itself, but we'll take a quick look. This is actually quite fiddly to understand, very logical but quite fiddly. You can see here it's the that we have to specify namespaces when doing this. So I'm going to ask you to read the Quick Start guide for a sort of better description on that. And so what we will notice in here, though, that is important, is the way that that mapping has specified two output ports. So we've got our top level information, header information if you like, that's the city and the state and the success return value going on to output port 0. And then we've got the 7 days of data, which are part of the forecast result / forecast element, is being sent to port 1. And specifically within that, we're grabbing out the temperatures, morning low, temperatures, daytime, high fields, and mapping those to the low and the high metadata fields. So this stuff really does need a little bit of practice to become comfortable with it, but it's not that difficult. Once you've done it once or twice, it'll be sort of like second nature. And we can see once it's run that we've got one top level record coming out. Let's just view this. And there we've just got the city that we searched for. Success is true, city, Portola Valley, state, California. And that's then generated as a sequence key, again described in the XML path reader section in the Quick Start guide. And then we've got 7 records here for each of the 7 days of forecast. And you can see it's very boring Californian weather, sunny every day, low and high. That's it. So please refer to the Quick Start guide for some slightly more in-depth information on some of those parameter settings.